In the ever-turbulent world of the bold and the beautiful, betrayal is never just a fleeting mistake. It's a seismic event that reshapes families, fractures loyalties, and ignites explosive confrontations that ripple across generations. The latest wave of speculation surrounding Brooke Logan potentially kicking Liam Spencer and Hope Logan off her property is exactly the kind of emotionally charged twist that longtime viewers have come to expect from the Logan dynasty. At the heart of this brewing storm lies a perceived betrayal that cuts deeper than business disagreements or romantic missteps. It strikes at the very core of Brooke's identity as both a mother and a fiercely protective matriarch. Spoilers suggest that tensions are reaching a boiling point after Liam encourages Hope to make a bold move involving her fashion ambitions, possibly reigniting conflicts tied to the Hope line and Brooke's own standing within the family's power structure. What might seem like a strategic decision to Hope and Liam could be interpreted by Brooke as a shocking act of disloyalty, especially if it undermines her authority or threatens her legacy within the Logan empire. Brooke has never been one to quietly accept betrayal, and history proves that when she feels wronged, her reactions can be swift, emotional, and devastating. For decades, her storyline has been defined by passionate love affairs, family feuds, and an unwavering determination to protect what she believes is hers. That intensity is precisely what makes this potential showdown so compelling. If Hope, her own daughter, appears to side with Liam in a move that challenges Brooke's control or vision, it could trigger a deeply personal sense of betrayal. After all, Brooke's bond with Hope has always been rooted in trust, shared struggles, and a mutual understanding of what it means to fight for one's place in a world dominated by the Forresters. To see Hope seemingly align with Liam's agenda, particularly if it involves a business or power play that excludes Brooke, would feel like a rejection not only of her authority, but of her entire life's work. Liam's role in this unfolding drama is equally critical. Known for his tendency to find himself caught between competing loyalties, often torn between Hope and Steffy Forrester, Liam has a long history of making decisions that unintentionally spark chaos. His encouragement of Hope to pursue a new direction, especially one that may involve challenging Brooke's position, places him squarely in the line of fire. To Brooke, Liam may not just be influencing Hope. He could be seen as manipulating her, steering her away from her family's interests and toward a path that benefits him or his own vision. This perception alone could be enough to ignite Brooke's fury, pushing her toward a drastic ultimatum. If Liam is the source of this perceived betrayal, then removing him from her home might be the only way to regain control. But what truly raises the stakes is the possibility that Brooke's anger doesn't stop with Liam, it extends to Hope as well. The idea of Brooke kicking her own daughter off the property is almost unthinkable, yet in the heightened emotional landscape of this soap, it's entirely plausible. Brooke's reactions have always been driven by a potent mix of love and pride, and when those forces collide, the results can be explosive. If she believes that Hope has knowingly betrayed her trust, particularly after everything they've been through together, Brooke might feel justified in taking a hard stand. In her mind, this could be less about punishment and more about drawing a line, making it clear that loyalty to family must come above all else. The emotional fallout from such a decision would be immense. For Hope, being cast out by her mother would represent a profound betrayal in its own right, forcing her to question everything she thought she knew about their relationship. It could push her closer to Liam, solidifying their bond as they face adversity together, or it could create new cracks in their relationship if Hope begins to wonder whether Liam's influence led her down a destructive path. Meanwhile, Brooke would be left to grapple with the consequences of her actions, potentially facing isolation and regret as she realizes the cost of her anger. Adding another layer to this drama is the broader context of ongoing tensions within the Logan and Forrester families. Spoilers indicate that Hope has been encouraging Brooke to assert herself and fight for what she deserves, particularly in relation to power struggles at Forrester Creations. This suggests that Hope's actions may not be intended as a betrayal at all, but rather as a misguided attempt to support her mother. However, in the world of soap operas, intentions often matter less than perceptions, and if Brooke interprets Hope's push as overstepping or as part of a larger scheme influenced by Liam, the damage could already be done. The potential eviction scenario also raises intriguing questions about where the characters go from here. If Liam and Hope are forced out, where do they turn? Could this lead to a renewed alliance with other characters, or even a shift in the balance of power within the show's central families? And what about Brooke? Will her decision ultimately strengthen her position, or will it leave her more vulnerable than ever, isolated from the very people she sought to control? There's also the ever-present possibility that this dramatic fallout is only the beginning of an even bigger storyline. In True the Bold and the Beautiful fashion, one act of betrayal often sets off a chain reaction, leading to new alliances, unexpected twists, and even more shocking revelations. Could Brooke's actions drive Hope into making an even bolder move, perhaps one that truly does threaten her mother's legacy? Could Liam, feeling unjustly targeted, take steps to retaliate or prove Brooke wrong? And could this conflict ultimately pave the way for reconciliation, as so many soap feuds eventually do? Or will it permanently fracture one of the show's most iconic mother-daughter relationships? What makes this storyline particularly compelling is its emotional authenticity. Beneath the heightened drama and larger-than-life reactions lies a very real and relatable theme: the pain of feeling betrayed by those closest to you. Brooke's potential decision to kick Liam and Hope off her property isn't just about anger. It's about hurt, pride, and the desperate need to protect oneself from further pain. It's about a mother who feels that her trust has been broken and who reacts in the only way she knows how, by taking control, even if it means pushing away the people she loves most. At the same time, Hope's perspective adds a layer of complexity to the narrative. If she truly believes that she's acting in her mother's best interests, then Brooke's reaction could feel like an unjust punishment, creating a rift that may be difficult to heal. This dynamic, two characters who both believe they're right, yet are fundamentally at odds, is what gives soap operas their enduring appeal. It's not just about who's right or wrong. It's about the emotional journey that unfolds as characters navigate the consequences of their choices. Ultimately, whether Brooke actually goes through with kicking Liam and Hope off her property or not, the mere possibility is enough to set the stage for a gripping and emotionally charged storyline. It's a reminder that in the bold and the beautiful, no relationship is ever truly safe, and even the strongest bonds can be tested by betrayal, ambition, and the ever-shifting dynamics of love and power. As the drama unfolds, viewers will be left on the edge of their seats, wondering not just what will happen next, but how these characters will find their way back to each other, if they ever do. The tension surrounding this explosive fallout only deepens when you consider how deeply intertwined loyalty, ambition, and identity are for every character involved, especially within the heightened emotional universe of the bold and the beautiful. Brooke's potential decision to throw Liam and Hope out doesn't exist in isolation. It's the culmination of years of complicated history, unresolved resentments, and fragile alliances that have been stretched to their limits. For Brooke, this isn't just about one disagreement or one perceived betrayal. It's about a pattern she may feel is repeating itself, where the people closest to her begin to challenge her authority or make choices that ultimately sideline her. That fear of losing control, of becoming irrelevant, of being betrayed by her own blood, has always driven Brooke to act in extreme ways, and this situation could be no different. If we look closer at Brooke Logan, her reaction begins to feel almost inevitable. Brooke has built her life on passion and instinct rather than careful calculation, which means when she feels hurt, she reacts immediately and often without fully considering the long-term consequences. Her relationships, especially with her children, are intensely emotional, which makes any perceived betrayal hit even harder. In her mind, Hope isn't just making an independent decision. She's choosing a side. And if that side appears to be Liam's, particularly in a way that undermines Brooke's influence or authority, it could feel like a deeply personal rejection. Meanwhile, Hope Logan may be completely blindsided by her mother's reaction. From Hope's perspective, her actions might be rooted in ambition, independence, or even a desire to prove herself outside of Brooke's shadow. For years, Hope has tried to carve out her own identity, particularly in the fashion world, where comparisons to her mother are inevitable. If she's making bold moves, perhaps encouraged by Liam, It might be less about betraying Brooke and more about stepping into her own power. But in the emotionally charged landscape of their relationship, intention and perception rarely align. What Hope sees as growth, Brooke may see as defiance. And then there's Liam Spencer, who once again finds himself at the center of chaos, whether he intended to be or not. Liam's history is filled with moments where his attempts to support the woman he loves end up creating unintended consequences. If he's backing Hope in a decision that challenges Brooke, he may believe he's simply being a supportive partner. However, Brooke could easily interpret his involvement as interference, or worse, manipulation. In her eyes, Liam might be seen as someone who is pulling Hope away from her family, influencing her decisions in ways that ultimately weaken Brooke's position. This dynamic sets the stage for a confrontation that is not only explosive, but deeply layered. Imagine the moment: Brooke, fueled by anger and heartbreak, standing her ground as she delivers the ultimatum. Her words would likely be sharp, cutting through any attempts at explanation or reconciliation. Hope, stunned and hurt, would try to defend herself, insisting that she never intended to betray her mother. Liam, caught in the middle, might attempt to de-escalate the situation, but his very presence could make things worse, reinforcing Brooke's belief that he's the root of the problem. The emotional intensity of such a scene would be undeniable, with years of history bubbling to the surface in a matter of moments. But what truly elevates the storyline is the ripple effect it could have on everyone else in their orbit. The Logan family has always been tightly connected, and a fracture of this magnitude would send shockwaves through their entire world. Other family members might be forced to take sides, creating new alliances and deepening existing divisions. Some might support Brooke's decision, believing she has every right to protect her legacy and demand loyalty. Others might see her actions as an overreaction, a moment of anger that could cause irreparable damage to her relationship with Hope. There's also the question of how this conflict intersects with the ongoing power struggles in the fashion world, particularly at Forrester Creations. If Hope's actions are tied to a business decision, perhaps a new direction for her brand or a challenge to Brooke's influence, it adds another layer of complexity. In that context, the personal and professional become inseparable, with each decision carrying consequences on both fronts. Brooke's reaction might not just be about family, it could also be about protecting her place in a competitive and often ruthless industry. For Hope and Liam, being forced out of Brooke's home could mark the beginning of a new chapter, one defined by independence, resilience, and perhaps even rebellion. Stripped of Brooke's support, they might be forced to rely on each other more than ever, strengthening their bond in the face of adversity. Alternatively, the pressure of the situation could expose cracks in their relationship, leading to new conflicts and uncertainties. Hope might begin to question whether following Liam's lead was the right choice, while Liam might struggle with guilt over the role he played in the fallout. At the same time, Brooke would be left to confront the aftermath of her decision. In the heat of the moment, her actions might feel justified, even necessary. But as time passes, the reality of what she's done could begin to sink in. The absence of Hope, her daughter, her confidant, her ally, would be impossible to ignore. Brooke might find herself grappling with regret, wondering if she pushed too far, if she allowed her anger to override her love. This internal conflict could add a powerful emotional dimension to the storyline, showing a more vulnerable side of Brooke as she wrestles with the consequences of her choices. And yet, in true soap opera fashion, this could also be the beginning of an even more dramatic escalation. What if Hope, feeling rejected and hurt, decides to take an even bolder stand? What if she aligns herself with someone Brooke sees as an enemy, turning a personal conflict into a full-blown war? What if Liam, determined to prove that Brooke was wrong about him, takes actions that further complicate the situation? Each possibility opens the door to new twists and turns, keeping viewers hooked as the story unfolds. There's also the ever-present question of reconciliation. No matter how intense the conflict, the history between Brooke and Hope is too deep to be erased overnight. Their bond, forged through years of shared experiences, love, and challenges, would inevitably pull them back toward each other, eventually. But the journey to that reconciliation could be long and painful, filled with moments of doubt, anger, and emotional vulnerability. When they do finally come face to face again, it would likely be one of the most powerful and emotional scenes of the entire storyline. What makes this potential plot so compelling is its emotional realism beneath the dramatic surface. At its core, it's a story about family, trust, and the consequences of misunderstanding. It explores what happens when communication breaks down, when assumptions take the place of honest conversations, and when pride prevents people from seeing each other's perspectives. Brooke's reaction, while extreme, is rooted in very real emotions: fear of betrayal, fear of losing control, fear of being hurt. Hope's actions, meanwhile, reflect a desire for independence and self-expression, even if they're misinterpreted. And Liam's role highlights the challenges of navigating complex family dynamics while trying to support the person you love. As the storyline continues to unfold, viewers will be left questioning not just what will happen next, but who will ultimately be forced to change. Will Brooke soften her stance and reach out to Hope? Will Hope stand her ground, determined to prove that she doesn't need her mother's approval? Will Liam find a way to bridge the gap, or will he become further entangled in the conflict? Each character stands at a crossroads, and the choices they make will shape the future of their relationships in profound ways. In the end, whether Brooke actually follows through on kicking Liam and Hope off her property or not, the emotional impact of this conflict is undeniable. It's a storyline that taps into the very essence of what makes soap operas so captivating: larger-than-life drama grounded in deeply human emotions. And as always in the bold and the beautiful, just when it seems like things couldn't get any more intense, another twist is always waiting just around the corner, ready to turn everything upside down once again. There's also the ever-present question of reconciliation. No matter how intense the conflict, the history between Brooke and Hope is too deep to be erased overnight. Their bond, forged through years of shared experiences, love, and challenges, would inevitably pull them back toward each other, eventually. But the journey to that reconciliation could be long and painful, filled with moments of doubt, anger, and emotional vulnerability. When they do finally come face to face again, it would likely be one of the most powerful and emotional scenes of the entire storyline. What makes this potential plot so compelling is its emotional realism beneath the dramatic surface. At its core, it's a story about family, trust, and the consequences of misunderstanding. It explores what happens when communication breaks down, when assumptions take the place of honest conversations, and when pride prevents people from seeing each other's perspectives. Brooke's reaction, while extreme, is rooted in very real emotions: fear of betrayal, fear of losing control, fear of being hurt. Hope's actions, meanwhile, reflect a desire for independence and self-expression, even if they're misinterpreted. And Liam's role highlights the challenges of navigating complex family dynamics while trying to support the person you love. As the storyline continues to unfold, viewers will be left questioning not just what will happen next, but who will ultimately be forced to change. Will Brooke soften her stance and reach out to Hope? Will Hope stand her ground, determined to prove that she doesn't need her mother's approval? Will Liam find a way to bridge the gap, or will he become further entangled in the conflict? Each character stands at a crossroads, and the choices they make will shape the future of their relationships in profound ways. In the end, whether Brooke actually follows through on kicking Liam and Hope off her property or not, the emotional impact of this conflict is undeniable. It's a storyline that taps into the very essence of what makes soap operas so captivating: larger-than-life drama grounded in deeply human emotions. And as always in the bold and the beautiful, just when it seems like things couldn't get any more intense, another twist is always waiting just around the corner, ready to turn everything upside down once again.